Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.
Hello, this video will give you a stanza-wise summary of the poem A Refusal to Mourn the Death by Fire of a Child in London by Dylan Thomas. First of all, let's have a brief introduction to the poem. A Refusal to Mourn the Death by Fire of a Child in London was first published in Horizon magazine in 1945 and collected in Thomas's Deaths and in Trances. The poem mourns a young victim of Germany's air raids on London during World War II. In this poem, Dylan Thomas resists writing a conventional elegy but captures the tragedy of the girl's death in soaring, intense language. Ultimately, the speaker links her death to the larger tragedy of human mortality and the fragility of childhood innocence. Let us now look at the summary of the poem. Stanza first. The poem begins with a long description of darkness, suggesting it as the source of creation for mankind and all living things. The speaker explores the idea that this darkness defines human existence and shapes our experiences and endurance. This exploration extends to non-human aspects of nature as well. The poem delves into the origins of life and existence. The silence and the fading light symbolize the final moment of consciousness. The speaker extends this metaphor by comparing the tumbling sea in harness to the blood with one's body, suggesting that it too becomes still in death. Summary of stanza 2. In the second stanza, the speaker in the poem is waiting for a sign that will signal the end of the world. When this sign appears, he will know that it is time for him to return to the source of life, which he describes as the water bead or the synagogue of the ear of corn. He will return to the origin and center of all life, entering his death and becoming one with the earth once again. The poem reaches its climax, revealing that the emotion the speaker is refusing to indulge in is sorrow. He is holding back his urge to mourn until the end of his life. He describes this restraint as withholding his salt seed from the earth and preventing the shadow of a sound from escaping his mouth. Summary of stanza 3. In the third stanza, the speaker reveals the reason behind telling this story and why he wants so desperately to mourn but refuses to do so. The speaker feels immense sorrow over the death of a child in a fire. However, he refuses to mourn because he doesn't want to send the child into death without acknowledging the truth of her situation. He believes that his tears and emotions would taint her reality and considers it an act of blasphemy. He feels the urge to sing an elegy of innocence and youth, but he refuses to do so. Summary of stanza 4. In the final stanza, the speaker concludes the narrative by describing how the dead child now lies with London's daughter. It is unclear whether this refers to an individual or the people of London as a whole, but given the speaker's belief about death, it is likely a reference to all of London. Written during and after World War II, the poem likely alludes to the losses suffered during the bombings of London. Amidst all the loss, the poet chooses to focus on the death of one child. All those who have died, including the recently deceased child, are now among the first dead. In death, they are reunited, existing in the time before and after life. The speaker suggests that their deaths are not extraordinary, but are part of the natural cycle, no different from the first death that occurred at the beginning of time. Throughout the poem, the speaker, possibly reflecting Thomas's own feelings, grapples with the concept of death and its aftermath. Witnessing the horrors of World War II, Thomas may have struggled to comprehend the full extent of the loss, seeking answers through his poetry.